Welcome to our new video. This is the Braun Series 7. We have reviewed this shaver for you, and you'll find out everything you need to know in this video, so just stay tuned. Before we get to the practical part, we'll first give you an overview of the product in our Features and Technology section. The Series 7 is a so-called foil shaver. This type of shaver is characterized by a rectangular blade block and the use of shaving foils to protect the skin. With the Braun Series 7 in particular, we have a shaving system with a total of 3 blades that can be moved independently of each other. Together with the shaving head, which is also movable, this allows the shaver to adapt to the contours of the face. The appliance can be used for both dry and wet shaving and is waterproof so that it can also be used in the shower. The scope of delivery also includes an attachable precision trimmer, which can be used for fine shaving or pre-trimming. Compared to other shavers on the market, the battery offers an acceptable performance, 50 minutes of shaving time on a full charge. It then takes a little longer, in other words, 60 minutes, to fully charge the battery again. If you're running low, the shaver also has a quick charge function. This means that you can charge for 5 minutes in order to get enough power to complete a short shaving cycle. You can keep track of the battery status via the display, which shows bar-shaped indicators so that you know when the device needs to be connected to the power supply. Unfortunately, there is no mains operation. Accordingly, the shaver will not work when it is in charging mode. To prevent the battery from discharging accidentally, the device also has a key lock. Simply press and hold the on button for a few seconds to activate the locking mechanism. As a shaver from the 7 series, Braun offers quite a few features. The built-in LED display shows indicators for charging, cleaning, and changing blades. These values can be displayed using the information button, which is placed below the on button, giving you a good overview of the status of your shaver. There is also a so-called AutoSense function, which measures the hair density and automatically adjusts the cutting performance accordingly. As far as the scope of delivery is concerned, the Series 7 offers a little more. In addition to the power adapter and cleaning brush, it also comes with a high-quality travel case and the aforementioned precision trimmer attachment. There's also a cleaning station and a cleaning cartridge as a special bonus. Of course, the whole thing is also available in different variations. For example, the basic version with a precision trimmer only, or a version with a charging station instead of a cleaning station. Ultimately, it depends on what you personally prefer. By the way, you can find all the links in the description below the video. You will find the product there as well, of course. So, let's get into detail now. We took a closer look at the shaver. There's nothing to complain about in terms of workmanship. All parts fit neatly together and make a well-made impression. With Braun shavers in particular, you can even say that the products look a little more robust or sturdier than the rotary shavers from Philips, for example. In terms of operation and handling, the shaver benefits from the fact that the blades and head are movable. As a result, it follows the contours well. This is not necessarily a fundamental advantage of foil shavers. In our opinion, rotary shavers adapt a little better to angled areas, such as the chin. Nevertheless, the Series 7 does make a good impression here, thanks to its design, and also plays to the strengths of the foil shavers, meaning that it is particularly good for shaving sideburns or under the nose. A major advantage of Braun shavers is their ease of use. Unlike rotary shavers, you don't have to get used to a special shaving technique. Instead, you can more or less just shave away. You only need to stretch the skin a little and, if possible, work against the growth direction of the hair. There's not much else to consider when using it. Everything works simply and intuitively. The precision trimmer is a useful feature in the daily routine. In our opinion, it also does its job very well. It's a shame that the trimmer doesn't fold out, as was the case with most Philips appliances, for example. That would definitely have been more convenient. Nevertheless, the attachment system itself is fine. Braun itself calls it the Easy Click function, and it is indeed relatively easy and quick to change the attachment with a little practice. Apart from that, it can be said that the Series 7 is generally pleasant to work with. At 185 grams, it is one of the lightest devices we reviewed. The vibration in the handpiece is noticeable, but definitely okay. The blades get lukewarm to warm on the skin after 2 to 2.5 minutes of shaving, which can still be described as pleasant overall. On the other hand, the shaver is one of the loudest devices we reviewed with a noise level of around 67 decibels. Nevertheless, the sound itself is pleasant. In any case, the shaver sounds significantly richer or more full-bodied than the rather more high-pitched devices from Philips or the smaller series from Braun. The bottom line is that you can definitely live with the noise impression. And now let's see what our colleague Chris has to say. He put the Series 7 to the test for us in everyday use and gathered a lot of experience in the process.
Ja, nun habe ich über
Yes,
Wochen
I've been
hinweg
testing
zig
dozens of
verschiedene
different
Rasierer
razors for
getestet
weeks
und
now
dabei vor
and
allem
came to
erstmal
one
eine
important
wichtige
conclusion.
Erkenntnis
And this
gewonnen.
basically applies to
Und das
all
gilt
the
im Grunde
razors I've
genommen für
tested.
alle Rasierer, die ich getestet
Namely,
habe, nämlich
don't believe the
glaubt nicht
advertising.
an die Werbung.
The
In der
advertising
Werbung wird
suggests
einem
that you
suggeriert,
basically
dass
go over it
man
once
im Grunde
and all the
einfach
hair is
drüber geht
gone.
und alle Haare sind
This is
weg.
simply not the
Dem ist
case,
nicht so.
regardless of whether you
Und
have a
zwar
razor
egal,
for
ob ihr ein
50 or
Haar
one for
für
several hundred
50
bucks.
Euro oder ein für mehrere hundert.
So
Ja,
what
und was
exactly does
heißt
that
das
mean?
jetzt genau? Also im
Basically,
Grunde ist
there
es
are
so, dass es
differences
zwischen
between the
den einzelnen
individual razors
Rasierern
in the
schon
sense of one shaves
Unterschiede
a
gibt.
little
So
better
im Sinne
and
von,
the
der
other
eine
shaves a
rasiert
little
ein bisschen
worse.
besser und der andere rasiert ein bisschen schlechter.
But they all
Aber
have the
alle
same basic
haben das
problem.
gleiche
That is,
Grundproblem.
that they
Das
do
heißt, sie
shave, but
rasieren
in certain
zwar,
places,
aber an
such as the
bestimmten
neck,
Stellen, wie
a
zum
few hair
Beispiel
may
am
remain.
Hals, da bleiben dann doch mal ein paar Haare stehen. Von
I
daher
would
würde ich
therefore
euch
recommend,
empfehlen, und das gilt
and this
für
applies
alle
to all
Geräte,
devices,
rasiert euch
shave at
relativ
relatively
kurz
short
Intervallen.
intervals.
Also
In
sprich
other words, every
täglich
day
oder
or at
zumindest
least
alle
every
2
2 days.
Tage. Und
And
wenn
if
ihr
you
das nicht
can't or
können
don't want to
solltet,
do this, then
dann trimmt den
pre-trim your
Bart
beard at least
zumindest erstmal
once and
vor
then
und
just
macht
do the
dann im
finishing
Endeffekt
touches
mit
with
dem
the
Rasierer nur
razor.
noch den Feinschliff.
So
So,
let's
kommen
get
wir
down to the
ganz konkret
specifics of the
zur
Series
Series
7,
7. Ich
and I'll
gehe
go
die
through the
Punkte einmal
points
kurz
with you.
durch.
First
Erster
point,
Punkt,
the blade
Dinge
feels
fühlen sich auf
super
der Haut
comfortable on the
super
skin.
angenehm an.
You can
Das kann man
definitely
auf
say
jeden
that.
Fall
To put the
sagen.
whole thing into
Bisschen Abstriche
perspective, I
muss man
personally
machen.
think
Ich
that
finde,
the
die
Philips devices
Philips-Geräte
do a
machen das ein
slightly better
bisschen
job
besser,
across the
aber
board,
so wie es
but on
ist,
its
ist es
own,
auf jeden
this is
Fall in
definitely a good
Ordnung.
performance.
Zweiter Punkt,
My
und da geht
second
es
point is
schon
that you can see that the whole
um die
thing is a
Dinge
bit
herum, wie
protruding
es das
around the
Ganze so
blade,
ein bisschen
which means that when I
auffälliger
want to
baut. Und
shave,
das sorgt
I can't really
dafür,
see
dass wenn
where I
ich mich
am.
jetzt rasieren will, dass ich nicht so gut sehen
That's a bit
kann,
of a
wo die
shame,
Haare
but it's
sind.
not the end of
Das
the
ist ein
world.
bisschen schade. Ein Weltuntergang ist das jetzt aber auch nicht.
The
Dritter
third point
Punkt
is the
ist das
feeling of safety,
Sicherheitsgefühl, und
and
das
this
ist
is
bei
definitely
diesem
very
Gerät
good with
auf
this
jeden
device.
Fall sehr
At
gut.
no
Ich hatte
point did I have the
zumindest zu
feeling that I
keinem
could cut
Zeitpunkt das
myself with it,
Gefühl, dass
and
ich
there was no
irgendwo
tugging or
schneiden
anything else
sollte
either.
und auch kein
So there's
Zicken
definitely
oder
nothing
sonst
to complain
irgendwas.
about.
Also da gibt es auf jeden Fall nichts zu meckern. Was
As far as
Hautirritationen
skin
angeht,
irritation is
gefällt er mir auch
concerned,
schon ganz
I
gut.
also
Auf jeden
liked it
Fall
quite a
besser als
bit.
sein
It's
kleiner
definitely
Bruder, der
better than its
Series
little
5.
brother,
Und das
the
finde ich auch
Series
gut, dass
5.
das so voneinander abgegrenzt ist. Dennoch
I
muss man
also think it's a
sagen,
good thing that it's
Philips-Produkte kommen
differentiated from
dabei
one
noch
another in this
Metern,
way.
die können das einfach noch ein
Nevertheless,
bisschen
it
besser.
has to be said that it
Anders
doesn't
sieht das
fully
aus
come
beim
close to the Philips
Rasierergebnis.
products.
Da sind
They
wir
simply
hier meiner
perform a
Meinung
bit
nach
better in that
jetzt schon
regard.
im
It's a
Premium-Bereich
different story with the
angekommen.
shaving
Auf jeden
experience,
Fall ist das
where I think
Gerät
we've
besser
already
als
reached the
alle
premium
Geräte
sector.
von Philips, die wir
In any
getestet
case, the
haben.
appliance is
Und
better
in
than
unserem
all the Philips
Gesamttest
series
so
we
auf
have
dem
reviewed and
zweiten
came
Platz.
second in our
Also
overall
das
test.
heißt, sehr
In other
glatt
words, very
und sehr
smooth,
gründlich.
very thorough,
Hier hat
and
man eine
exceptionally good
außerordentlich
shave.
gute Rasur. Wie
How
war
about
denn das
wet
Rasieren?
shaving?
Ja, das ist jetzt
Yes,
wieder so
that's
ein
another
Punkt,
point that
den
I can
ich
answer across all devices
geräteübergreifend
because I
beantworten
don't think
kann.
there were any major
Weil
differences
es da aus
between the
meiner
individual
Sicht gar
shavers.
nicht so große Unterschiede zwischen den einzelnen Rasierern gab. Was ich
What I
dazu
can
sagen
say
kann,
is,
ist,
yes, you
ja,
can do it,
kann
and
man
yes, it
machen
works.
und ja, funktioniert
But you
auch.
also have to ask
Aber man muss
yourself,
sich auch
does it make any
fragen,
sense at
macht
all?
das denn überhaupt
And that's
Sinn?
the big
Und das
question
ist
in
eben
my
das
opinion.
große Aber an der ganzen Geschichte.
Personally, I think
Ich
that if I'm
persönlich
going
bin
to
der
put some
Meinung,
shaving cream on my
wenn die
face
Dinge
anyway,
jetzt da schon
then I might
so
as well use a wet
schaumstoffmäßig
razor and
sind,
end up with a better result than
dann
with an
kann das auch
electric
gleich
one.
einen Vorteil haben. Das
However,
Ganze dennoch,
there
und
is an
zwar für all
advantage for all those
diejenigen,
who
die
like
sich
to
gerne
shave in the
ihre
shower.
Dusche rasieren wollen.
You
Und
don't cut
zwar
yourself as
schneidet
quickly.
man sich damit nicht so schnell. Ich
I
möchte
don't want
jetzt
to give
nicht
the
den Eindruck
impression that you
vermitteln,
can't
dass
cut
man sich
yourself
damit
with it,
gar nicht
but not
schneiden
as
kann,
quickly as with a wet
aber
razor.
eben nicht so schnell
Of
wie
course,
mit so
this is
einem
especially
Nassrasierer.
advantageous when you're
Und
shaving
das
in the
ist
shower
natürlich
and
gerade
don't have
ganz
a mirror
cool, wenn man
available.
unter der Dusche steht und keinen Spiegel zur Verfügung hat.
Don't forget, you can find the link to the product in the description below the video, and if the video was helpful to you, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. To ensure that the shaver can do its job for as long as possible, it is of course important to clean it regularly. To do this, simply pull off the shaving head and then carefully tap it out. You can then put the shaving head back on and rinse it under running water while the appliance is running. Basically, this is all easy and no problem. Of course, you can also use the station supplied for cleaning. Simply open the cover, insert the cleaning cartridge, close the cover, connect the power cable, place the shaver into the station, then press the start button on the top. Cleaning then takes a short moment, and the shaver is fresh again. The shaver's battery is also charged by the station. An illuminated ring at the top of the station indicates the status of the cleaning cartridge. Blue stands for full, yellow for half full, and red for empty. When the cartridge is empty, it must be replaced, which of course incurs running costs. Basically, however, it should be said that you don't really need a cleaning station like this. Cleaning by hand also works very well. Nevertheless, the station is a nice feature. feature, and to be honest, it feels quite good to shave with a freshly cleaned appliance. In the end, of course, everyone has to decide for themselves whether they want to use the station or not. Let's move on to the blades, and as it's often the case with blades, they will eventually become blunt. As already mentioned, there is a replacement indicator to keep track of this. If this is activated, the blade system should be changed. The blades usually last between 1 and 2 years. Let's come to our conclusion. With the Braun Series 7, you get a shaver in the upper price range that lives up to this classification in most regards. A mains operation and an integrated trimmer would have been nice, and the slightly protruding shaving head sometimes blocks the view a little. Apart from that, however, the performance is good for a foil shaver, and we think it was also okay in terms of skin irritation. Other than that, it feels pleasant on the skin, and the shaving result is one of the best in our test. In our opinion, the features and scope of delivery could perhaps offer a little more in this price range, but to be fair, we are nitpicking at this point. On the whole, we can certainly recommend this shaver. So we checked out this shaver for you. If you are interested in the product, take a look at the description below the video. You'll find all the links there. Otherwise, stay tuned. Our Endcard will provide a few interesting suggestions for you.